Capricorn, Capricorn. The words that make them ghost you forever. Number 5 is brutal. You just lost a Capricorn forever and didn't even realize the exact moment it happened. There's something you need to understand about Capricorns. They don't explode. They don't make a scene. They don't block you in a fit of rage. No, they simply disappear. Like smoke. And when that happens, there's no going back. But here's what nobody tells you. There are specific phrases that trigger that self-destruct button in a relationship with a Capricorn. Words that seem harmless to any other sign, but to Capricorn are like pure poison. I'm talking about 5 deadly phrases. 5 sentences that make this earth sign build such a high wall around you that you'll never be able to climb it again. And look, number 5? That one is absolutely brutal. It's the phrase that 90% of people say without realizing the gravity of it. And that's exactly why so many relationships with Capricorn end in silence. Think about it. How many times have you wondered why that Capricorn simply stopped replying to your messages? Why they suddenly became distant? Why they never looked at you the same way again? The answer lies in these 5 sentences. And if you're watching this now, there are 2 possibilities. Either you're a Capricorn who finally wants people to understand your unseen boundaries, or you care about being a Capricorn and don't want to make the fatal mistake that destroys everything. Get ready, because after this video, you'll never talk to a Capricorn the same way again. But before we dive into these relationship-ending words, if you want to truly understand the mysterious mind of Capricorn, hit that subscribe button right now and leave a like. Because understanding these 5 phrases might just save your most important relationships. Trust me, you'll want to remember this. Let's begin. Picture this. A mountain stands before you. Solid. Unmovable. Built from ancient stone and millennia of pressure. That's how the world sees Capricorn. The stoic one. The responsible one. The person who never breaks, never bends, never shows weakness. But here's what nobody tells you about mountains. They feel everything. Every raindrop. Every gust of wind. Every tremor deep beneath their surface. They absorb it all, silently. While the world admires their strength and assumes they're made of something harder than flesh and blood. When you tell a Capricorn they're being too sensitive, you're not just dismissing their feelings. You're confirming their deepest, most painful fear. That even when they finally lower their guard, even when they trust you enough to show you the tender places beneath all that armor, you still can't see them. Do you understand what that does to someone who spends their entire life proving they're strong enough? Who was taught from childhood that emotions are weakness, that vulnerability is a luxury they can't afford? A Capricorn doesn't cry easily. They don't fall apart over small things. So when they finally express hurt, disappointment, or pain, it's because something has cut them so deeply that they couldn't contain it anymore. It's because they trusted you enough to believe you'd handle their heart with care. And then you call them too sensitive. In that moment, a Capricorn learns something devastating. Even their carefully measured emotions are too much for you. Even when they filter their feelings through layers of self-control, even when they've waited days or weeks to gather the courage to speak up, you still think they're overreacting. So they make a decision. A quiet, irreversible decision. They decide you'll never see them vulnerable again. Not because they're angry, but because they've concluded that you don't have the emotional capacity to hold space for their truth. And rather than risk that pain again, rather than keep trying to make you understand, they simply vanish. The Capricorn you knew, the one who occasionally let you glimpse their softness, that person dies in the moment you call them too sensitive. What remains is a ghost. Polite maybe, cordial perhaps, but gone in every way that matters. Because Capricorn doesn't waste their vulnerability on people who weaponize it against them. There's a specific kind of loneliness that comes with being born under the sign of the mountain goat. It's the loneliness of carrying everyone's expectations on your shoulders while pretending the weight doesn't crush you. From the moment Capricorns can remember, they've been climbing, reaching, striving to become worthy of love through achievement, through success, through being absolutely perfect in every measurable way. Because somewhere deep in their bones, they learned a terrible lesson. That love is conditional. That belonging must be earned. So when you tell a Capricorn they care too much about what people think, you're not offering helpful advice. You're mocking the very foundation of their survival strategy. Think about it. Really think about it. This is someone who has built their entire identity around being enough, around being respected, admired, valued for their contributions to the world. Not because they're shallow or insecure, but because external validation became their proof of existence. When a Capricorn excels, when they achieve, when they finally reach that summit everyone said was too high, for a brief, glorious moment, they feel real. They feel like they matter. Like all the sacrifice, all the lonely nights working while others played, all the relentless self-discipline was worth something. And then you come along and reduce that to vanity, to weakness, to caring too much about what people think. But here's what you don't understand. Capricorns aren't chasing applause for ego. They're chasing proof that they deserve to exist, that their suffering had meaning, that someone somewhere sees them as worthy of love. When you dismiss this, when you make them feel foolish for needing recognition, you're not helping them become more authentic. You're telling them that even their deepest wounds, their most fundamental needs, are wrong. So they ghost you. Not dramatically. Not with explanations. They simply reclassify you as someone who will never understand the mountain they're climbing or why they can't stop. Someone who thinks their struggle is a choice rather than a survival mechanism built from years of believing they had to earn the right to be loved. And Capricorn doesn't keep people around who make them feel ashamed of their scars. Imagine being 7 years old and realizing you're the adult in the room, that your parents are overwhelmed, your siblings are struggling, and someone needs to hold everything together. So you do. You learn to suppress your own needs. You become responsible, reliable, the person everyone can count on. Now imagine spending the next 20, 30, 40 years playing that same role. Being the rock, the problem solver, the one who sacrifices their own dreams so everyone else can chase theirs. That's a Capricorn story. And then someone who's never carried that weight, who's never had to choose between their own happiness and keeping their world from collapsing, tells them to relax and stop being so serious. Do you know what that feels like? It feels like betrayal. Because when you tell a Capricorn to relax, you're not seeing the years of conditioning that made them this way. You're not acknowledging the trauma of growing up too fast, of never being allowed to be a child, of learning that their worth was measured by their usefulness. You're just annoyed that they won't play along with your definition of fun. Here's the truth about Capricorns. They want to relax. They dream about it, about letting go, about being spontaneous and carefree and unburdened by the constant weight of responsibility. But they can't. Because every time they try, every time they consider putting themselves first, a voice inside screams that something terrible will happen if they stop holding everything together. That voice was installed in childhood. It's been reinforced by every time they relaxed, and something did fall apart. Every time they trusted someone else to carry the weight, and that person dropped it. So when you tell them to stop being so serious, you're not offering liberation. You're confirming that you don't understand the prison they live in, that you think their hyper-responsibility is a personality quirk rather than a survival mechanism. And worse, you're making them feel defective for not being able to just let go like you can. In that moment, a Capricorn realizes you're another person who wants them to change without offering to help carry their burden. Another person who enjoys the benefits of their reliability but resents the cost of it. So they make a calculation, a cold, final calculation. They ghost you. Because Capricorn would rather be alone with their seriousness than constantly judged by someone who mistakes their trauma response for a character flaw. Before we get to the last two phrases, I need to know something. Have you ever felt this way? Have you ever been told you're too much or not enough, that you care too deeply or take things too seriously? Have you ever had someone dismiss the very things that make you who you are? Drop a comment right now. Tell me which of these phrases hit home for you. Because I'm reading every single comment, and I want you to know, you're not alone in this. Your feelings are valid. Your pain is real. Now let's continue. Because what's coming next? It gets even deeper. There's a specific kind of torture in being asked why you can't do something that everyone else makes look effortless. Why can't you just be happy? Why can't you just enjoy the moment? Why can't you just stop worrying about the future? For a Capricorn, that question lands like an accusation, like proof that even their right to struggle is too much for you. Here's what people don't understand. Capricorns aren't pessimistic by choice. They're not refusing to be happy out of stubbornness or self-sabotage. They're living with a constant, exhausting awareness of everything that could go wrong, everyone who's depending on them, every responsibility they can't afford to drop. Their mind is a battlefield, a never-ending war between the desire for peace and the terror of being unprepared, between wanting to trust that everything will be okay and knowing from experience that it won't be okay unless they personally ensure it. So when you ask, why can't you just be happy, you're not encouraging them. You're pathologizing their reality. You're making their survival strategy sound like a moral failing. And here's the cruelest part. Capricorns want to be happy. They want it so desperately it hurts. They look at people who seem to float through life without anxiety, without the crushing weight of responsibility, and they wonder what's wrong with them. Why they can't access that lightness. Why happiness always feels conditional, always temporary, always one disaster away from vanishing. But they can't explain this to you. Because if you have to ask why they can't just be happy, you've already proven you don't understand the cage they live in. So instead of trying to make you understand, instead of exhausting themselves explaining the complex psychology of a person who learned too young that survival requires constant vigilance, they simply remove you from their life. Because Capricorn would rather be miserable alone than miserable while being judged for their misery by someone who thinks happiness is a choice. They ghost you not in anger, but in resignation, in the quiet acceptance that you're another person who sees their struggle as an inconvenience rather than a cry for help. And once a Capricorn accepts that you can't hold space for their darkness, you lose access to their light forever. This is it, the most brutal phrase of all. The one that severs the connection instantly and permanently. The words that make a Capricorn ghost you so completely, you'll wonder if you ever knew them at all. You're not trying hard enough. Let me tell you why this destroys them. Capricorn is the sign of the mountain, the eternal climber, the soul that was born reaching for summits that seem impossible to everyone else. From their first conscious memory, they've been trying to be good enough, trying to earn love, trying to prove their worth through relentless effort and achievement. They've sacrificed sleep for success, relationships for responsibility, joy for duty. They've pushed through exhaustion, depression, burnout, and pain because stopping feels like dying, because rest feels like failure. And after all of that, after bleeding themselves dry trying to be worthy of love and belonging, you tell them they're not trying hard enough? That phrase doesn't just hurt a Capricorn. It annihilates them. Because you've just confirmed their worst fear, that no amount of effort will ever be sufficient. That they could give everything, sacrifice everything, destroy themselves in the pursuit of being enough, and people will still demand more. In that moment, something breaks inside them. Not loudly, not visibly, but permanently. They realize you're like everyone else who's taken their effort for granted, who's consumed their labor, their loyalty, their relentless commitment, and somehow still found them wanting, who looked at the mountain they've climbed and said, "Why aren't you higher?" So they make a choice, a final, irreversible choice. They ghost you, not because they hate you, but because they literally cannot survive your expectations. Because if they stay, if they keep trying to prove themselves to you, you will drain every last drop of life from them. And they've finally realized that some people will never see their effort as enough. So they disappear, completely, utterly, like you never existed. Because Capricorn has spent their entire life trying hard enough. And if you can't see that, if you can't recognize the Herculean effort it takes for them to simply exist, then you don't deserve access to them at all. This is the phrase that ends everything. The words that make a Capricorn build walls so high, so impenetrable, that you'll never reach them again. And they won't explain it to you. They won't give you closure. They'll just vanish. Because some betrayals are too deep for words. So here we are. 5 phrases that destroy Capricorn. 5 seemingly innocent statements that reveal a fundamental misunderstanding of what it means to be born under the sign of the mountain. But let me tell you what this is really about. What all of these phrases have in common. They're all variations of the same devastating message. Your struggle is your fault. Your pain is your choice. Your inability to be different means you're fundamentally flawed. And for a Capricorn who has spent their entire life trying to be perfect enough to deserve love, that message is a death sentence. Because Capricorns don't ghost you because they're cold. They ghost you because they finally accepted that you'll never see them. The real them. The exhausted, terrified, desperately lonely person underneath all that achievement and responsibility. They ghost you because staying means slow suicide. It means continuing to explain themselves to someone who's already decided their struggles are weaknesses. It means enduring the constant, crushing disappointment of being misunderstood by someone they thought would finally see them. And Capricorn is done being disappointed. So they choose the mountain, the solitary climb, the lonely summit where at least no one can tell them they're not trying hard enough. They choose themselves, even if that means choosing solitude. Because after a lifetime of sacrificing who they are to be what everyone needs, they've learned a painful truth. Some people will love the mask, but never the person underneath. Some people will consume their strength, but resent their vulnerability. And Capricorn won't die for your comfort anymore. If you're watching this as a Capricorn, I want you to know something. Your struggle is real. Your pain is valid. Your exhaustion is earned. And you don't owe anyone an explanation for why you can't just relax, or be happy, or try harder. You've been trying your whole life. And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve you. And if you're watching this because you love a Capricorn, hear me clearly. These people are not cold. They're not unfeeling. They're not impossible to reach. They're just protecting themselves from a world that has consistently punished them for being human. If you want to keep a Capricorn in your life, stop asking them to change. Stop dismissing their feelings. Stop judging their struggles as character flaws. Instead, see them. Really see them. See the weight they carry. See the mountain they're climbing. See the exhausted soul underneath all that competence. And then, climb with them. Don't tell them to come down. Don't mock them for being so high. Just climb with them. Because that's all they've ever wanted. Someone who understands that the mountain isn't optional. Someone who sees their effort and says, I see you. I see how hard you're trying. And you're enough. Say that. And watch a Capricorn finally lower their guard. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever said these phrases to a Capricorn? Or, if you're a Capricorn yourself, have these words been said to you? How did it feel? What happened next? Drop a comment below. Share your story. Because this community is built on understanding, empathy, and the courage to be seen. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for trying to understand. And remember, some people are worth the climb. Subscribe if you want more deep dives into the hidden psychology of the Zodiac. Hit that like button if this resonated with you. And I'll see you in the next video. Until then, be gentle with the Capricorns in your life. They're carrying more than you know.